Hey guys, it's takasta here again. Welcome to another video review. Though I don't do reviews as much now, I thought I'd make a small investment in a quality microphone to improve the sound quality of my reviews. Hopefully it's something you guys can appreciate, and something I really should have done a long time ago. With the recent surgence of mice hype, I thought it's time for me to crank out new videos again, and hopefully with better sound quality. And today, I'm reviewing the Zowie S1 and S2 matte refresh gaming mice. By way of background, Zowie is infamous for its simplistic but effective ambidextrous shape designs, starting with this AM series originally, then moving on to the FK and the ZA series, and now with the S series. Though the AM series was somewhat of a flop in that I thought the shape was a bit awkward and bulky, since their FK and ZA shapes, the mice have become much more lean, narrower, and overall just much more comfortable. With the S series released last year, it made a huge splash with the Divina blue and pink, targeting female gamers specifically, and was said to be one of the most comfortable shapes out there. I actually didn't review the S series initially because I thought it was just way too bright color for my liking, and it had much more of a glossy surface. They recently made the good decision of introducing a matte black finish with the S1 and S2 right here. To be honest, this just feels like good marketing and business, as they know those who bought the Divina S1 and S2 would likely buy this as well, and attract those who have wanted to buy this mouse for a long time with the black matte refresh. So today I'll just be mainly focusing on the S2, but I'll be comparing the shape and the size of the S1 as well soon. So starting with the price. The price is at $69 US, maybe slightly more expensive or cheaper. In terms of its price point, it's fairly expensive for such a simple mouse. Although Zowie have always made mouse with been like no frills in terms of its software and quite simple, I call it the Zowie Premium, as it's a decent mouse price to be paying for a mouse, but if you ask me, I think it's actually quite worth it. It's a very, very comfortable mouse, and in terms of the shape and also its build quality, I think is just a step above the other mouse at this kind of price point. Moving on to the specs. So this is an ambidextrous mouse with 5 buttons, uses Huano switches, which I'll be testing in another video, Huano encoder for the scroll wheel, Pixar PMW3360 sensor, which performs very, very well, DPI steps of 400 to 3200, 125 Hz to 1000 pulling Hertz, and 2 meters non-braided cord. So overall, a very, very solid mouse in terms of specs and the performance. So you know what you're getting for $69. I think it's pretty much expected. In terms of the weight and the dimensions, S1 and S2, the S1 is a larger mouse compared to S2, same shape. S1 in terms of weight is 87 grams without cable, and S2 is 82 grams without cable. I actually personally like the slightly more weight to the mouse. I'm actually not a fan of the Model O or the Final Mouse, like 65 grams, 60 grams. I think it's just way too much. 82 grams for this is actually, I really like it. I've explained in my Model O why I prefer a mouse with slightly more weight. In terms of the dimensions, the S1 is 126 by 61 by 39 millimeters. The S2 is 122 by 59 by 38. Moving on to the shape now, I think is the most important thing. And if you've ever used the Zowie mouse, you use the FK or the ZA series. They always had the FK, FK1, FK2, FK1, and then the FK1 Plus in terms of the sizings. ZA series exactly the same, ZA 11, 12, and 13. So they did something similar here with the S1 and the S2. The S1 is more akin to the FK, sorry, not the FK1, sorry, and the ZA11. The S2 is more akin to the FK2, which I actually have a copy right here. So in terms of the shape, it's actually very, very important. I think it's good to actually use the FK series and the ZA series as a I guess comparison. With the FK series, the profile is definitely much lower, and I think in terms of where you grip the mouse a bit more in the middle. With the S2 series, I think the mouse profile is actually slightly higher, and you move the grip for your palm support slightly towards the back. And to just give a final comparison with the ZA series, the ZA actually pushes the palm kind of support to the very, very back, so it kind of starts curving from the back instead of the S2, and obviously with the FK2, very, very low profile. So I thought it'd be quite interesting to do some comparisons with other ambidextrous mouse. So compared to, for example, the G303, compared to the S2 at least, it's quite a similar, I mean, in terms of size, it's quite a similar size, but with the G303 or 302 or 303, it pushes the, I guess, the grip slightly in the backward, so you get a little bit more of a palm kind of support at the back. With the S2, it's slightly the same, and I actually personally quite like this. Now doing some comparisons to the Model O, actually one of the newer mice. So I don't have this plugged in so you can't see the lights. I think if people have done comparisons, it's much more similar to the FK1 in terms of its size and the profile. The Model O is definitely much more of a lower profile mouse, and when you grip the mouse, you definitely grip it in the middle of the mouse right here. Whereas the S2, you kind of move the grip slightly towards the back, so you get slightly more palm support. And if you're more of a slightly like hybrid claw palm gripper, this would actually feel quite good for you. In terms of the size, the S1 would be more similar to the Model O, I suppose. But as you guys know, the Model O is probably going to announce a smaller version of the Model O, which will probably be similar size to the S2. So finally, maybe a third comparison in terms of the size. I have here the G Pro Wireless. I mean, one of the most popular mice currently out in the market. So in terms of its size, I think the S1 definitely feels slightly larger than in terms of the palm to the G Pro Wireless in terms of size. And then maybe the G Pro Wireless is slightly in the middle, and the S2 is slightly, ever so slightly smaller than the G Pro Wireless when you're holding it in your hand. In terms of the grip, well, on this G Pro Wireless, I did mod this with some grip tape, but the grip is definitely much more in the middle, and the grip on both sides don't curve in as much. With the S2, as I mentioned before, the grip is slightly towards the back, and in terms of the, you get I guess, pinky and fourth finger grip or and control, and the thumb grip, you get much better rest on both sides, which I do like. In terms of me personally, I actually really like, even though my hand is 90 centimeters to the tip to the base, the S2, even though it's slightly smaller mouse than the S1, I actually prefer the S2. The reason for that is because I like having a smaller mouse in my hand, so I play actually a lot of Dota, and in Dota or MOBA gaming or RTS gaming, you have to make a lot of small little clicks and flicks, and you need quite precise controlling and constantly moving your hero. And I just realized with a lot of actually mouse reviewers, a lot of people actually play FPS games. They're like big Overwatch players or they PUBG or Fortnite. I'm actually a big Dota player, so definitely my reviews are a bit more lean towards that side. So if you play Dota or in the mobile games, I think this might be the S2. If you have not so large of a hand, I think the S2 size would be actually perfect for you. Now moving on to the build quality. So this is something I think most people don't actually talk about enough. In terms of the build quality, I think it's one of the better built mouses out there, especially with the matte refresh. So every single matte refresh or matte kind of surface is not the same, and I think Zowie have done a very excellent job with this. With the surface, I think it feels very comfortable. It doesn't feel too slippery, and it feels very soft on the hands, if that kind of makes sense. Maybe compared to a lot of the Logitech kind of matte surfaces, the Logitech matte surfaces actually they're fairly comfortable, but I would say it's slightly slippery and definitely not as soft on the hands as the Zowie matte. So I would actually give Zowie the upper hand on this one. And then again, for the build quality comparing to the Model O, I think the Model O, to be honest, the build quality is actually really good, and the surface of the mouse already feels quite nice. If you didn't have anything to compare it to, the Model O matte surface is actually very soft on the skin. I think in terms of, but as a direct comparison to the Zowie S2 or the Zowie matte finishes, I personally prefer the Zowie finishes more than the Model O. It doesn't feel slightly nicer, just not as rough. And I definitely give the upper hand to the Zowie new refresh as well. Now moving on to the click and the scroll. So they use the Huano switches. Actually, Zowie has always used Huano switches on many of their mice, and they've gone back to it. And this time, most people complain that Huano switches are quite stiff and hard. However, in this implementation, the Huano switches actually feel slightly less stiff and very crisp to click. I think in terms compared to Omron switches. And after using them for quite a long time, playing some Dota, I actually really like the switches and the clicks of the new Huanos implemented in the S1 and the S2. For the scroll, it uses also Huano encoder. There's slight travel forward between forth and back between each notch and notch. So even if you push it a little bit, it doesn't really go to the next notch. So once it lands on the next notch, it kind of lands a little bit and doesn't rattle, but you have to push. There's a little bit of a indentation every single time you have to push it. This is different from the Model O, whereby basically you give a little bit of force, it just snaps right into the next one, snaps right into the next one. This Zowie encoder, I don't think it's everyone's favorite, but this is just trying to describe what kind of feels like. I'll do another test to better really explain this, and so you can get a good sense of this. Now moving on to the cable. It uses a pretty standard 2-meter non-braided cable, and as far as non-braided cable goes, it's actually like quite flexible, and I quite like it. I mean, I don't expect all companies to really have like extended cords or paracords installed, but as far as the cable goes, I think it's pretty solid and is as tangle-free as most non-braided cables come stock. And I like the design that is actually pretty interesting in the this front area here. I think they know that cable tug or cable drag is actually a big issue. So in terms of the front of the mouse, they actually angle the mouse slightly upward. Or angle the cable slightly upward, sorry. And that actually helps with reducing the drag. So if you actually use a mouse bungee and with this kind of angled cable, actually pretty much the mouse doesn't drag at all. And I actually really, really enjoy that. So, some concluding thoughts on the Zowie S1 S2 matte refresh. For $69, do I think it's worth it? I've always been a fan of Zowie. I've always been a fan of their shapes. And with the S1 and S2, I really like the hybrid kind of shape they put in between the FK and the ZA series. So if you're looking for a mouse which is basically something in between, or you really with a slightly higher profile, something in between those shapes, I would highly recommend trying this mouse. And for $69 US, it's a bit expensive. I do admit that. However, the build quality, I absolutely love it. The ABS material they used and the finishing, the polishing is a matte surface finish. However, the I guess treatment they've done, I actually think is very, very good, and it's probably the best in the business. I like it more than the Modelo, like it the matte surface much more than the Logitech, and overall just a super solid mouse and with really great performance. So hope you guys enjoyed that video review, and I'll try to do some more reviews of. I've heard there's a new G-Rolls mouse, there's also the Razer Viper which is coming out, which are looking really, really interesting offerings. So I'll be trying to get my hands on that. Thanks for that, and as always, if you need about my mouse feet, you can always visit my store on eBay, iTechTech on eBay, or my web store at itech.com. So thanks for watching, guys, and click subscribe.